Imagine yourself at a party, meeting new people, and you get to talk to a new person. How likely you think you're gonna be to asking them how much they earn or what they do with their money? Most likely on the first encounter of a new person, probably chances are you're not going to talk about money at all. Now on the flip side though, you might have a friend that you know for years. Now be honest to yourself, do you actually know how much they earn? Or if they invest any of their money? Or how much they actually save of their money? Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kai. Today I want to talk to you about something that people actually don't really talk very much about. And that's the subject of money. Now I know this video is probably not going to get too many views. Promising you how to make $1,000 a day probably would get way more clicks, but I'm here to provide value and I think that's a very important topic and mindset we should be adopting. And I'm so baffled why we are so scared talking about money. Coming back to the theoretical example of the first party where you meet somebody, you may actually end up talking about your romantic life, how many children you have, any potential divorce you had in the past. So many topics, but money most likely isn't one of them. And that's such a shame because that's something all of us spend way too much time thinking about in our own heads. Do we have enough? How can we pay the bill? How can I get more? Right? There's so many questions we ask ourselves and so many questions where we don't have an answer to. What is the best investments? How much should I be saving? Even in school where we learn about chemistry, biology, geography, all these things. I mean, fine, they're important, sure. But what about money? I mean, that's affecting every single human being on this earth. And sadly, that is hardly ever taught nor talked about. And I think that's a big problem. And I think it should start from childhood. We should educate our kids much better to have a better mindset about money. Because often money I feel is demonized, is a bad thing. And it's so interesting. When people have too much money, they're also being demonized. The ultra rich, these high net worth individuals, they're living in their own world. They should pay the taxes for everybody and people really go against them. On the other hand though, you see the ultra poor and then people go against them as well because they should get a job, to start doing something. Nobody needs to be poor in this world. They should just start earning money, right? And that's easier said than done. So whatever you do with money, it's most likely going to be wrong and people are going to judge you for it. And I think that's why it's such a heated debate and such a heated topic because people are going to judge you one way or the other. And that's why people like to stick to themselves and not reveal anything. But that's a cultural thing. When you go to Scandinavia, for example, you can actually Google what your neighbor is earning and how much money they have. That's public record information because they have a very much socialistic approach to life. And in terms of money mindset, I really enjoyed living in Dubai, where I was living actually for 7 years, because there it's a very much different mindset. People actually look up to people who make more, and people really come there to make a career, to earn more money. And when they see a rich person, somebody with a nice car, they're not gossiping or bad-mouthing that person. Actually, they might approach and say, listen, wow, that's impressive. How can I get there? What are you doing? I want to learn how to get to such a level of wealth. And for me, that's very inspiring. It doesn't mean money makes you better, but it just means that we aim to grow in anything in life, right? In our romantic life, we want to get better. In our physical shape, we want to get better over time. Our mind should get stronger, wiser, faster. And the same in our career and financial life. Why should I be earning less 10 years from now than I do today? My goal is to improve and increase those earnings and income over time. Of course, having said this, money is not everything, because otherwise the richest people should be the best people in the world. I mean, it's not the ranking based on your money. That's absolutely wrong. And I think that's once again the misperception people have about money because they don't talk about it. If you were to talk about it, you would understand the problems that come with money. It doesn't mean all the rich people have a wonderful life. I mean, there's a lot of issues, believe it or not. The wealthier you get, you have other problems that we can't even relate to. And also don't forget, some of those people either inherited money or they got lucky in a certain situation when the country opened up and there was new opportunities that don't exist anymore. They were first to be on the spot and they capitalized on it, and that's great. But that doesn't make them smarter than, for example, a professor teaching chemistry on a university to new students. That's something we need in our society, and that person is probably extremely smart, most likely way smarter than many of us. But quite often such a job is poorly compensated. But the fact that he earns less than somebody in the finance industry, for example, doesn't make him a worse person. He might actually be way smarter and way more clever. This person just chose to pursue a career in a different field. And that shouldn't be the judgment of how good or bad a person is. But once again, the fact that we never talk about this or teach these things to our kids, when they open Instagram or TikTok, they see all these rich people with the Lamborghinis and so on, and they say, I want to be like that, without any meaning behind it, right? They don't know how to get there or if that really makes them happy or fulfills them. Maybe they're better off camping in the wilderness or following their passion and setting up an animal shelter or helping less privileged people. I mean, there's so many things out there. Just chasing the money definitely won't guarantee happiness in life. So I think in the Western world especially, but pretty much globally, you see that even in China now, where people are buying branded items. That's one of the factors how you can differentiate yourself. A big car, fancy designer clothes, because then everybody can see, wow, you made it, you're a rich person. And that's often the middle class trying to prove something. If you look at the ultra rich and the ultra wealthy, they're actually dressed down very simple. Look at Mark Zuckerberg wearing the same gray shirt, or some of the ultra rich people, they look extremely simple because they don't need to prove anything anymore. Elon Musk, same thing. He looks so simple and casual, you would never guess that he's a billionaire based on his dress code. So people try to elevate their status by having all these materialistic things that makes them think they are better than other people who don't have them. And that's a rat race you're only gonna be losing, because guess what? There's always somebody richer, always somebody wealthier. So when you think you bought a nice car, next time you see another one with an even bigger car, or you bought a house and they bought a mansion. So, there's always somebody who's doing more. So if that's your measure of success in life, I think you're only gonna be failing. Of course, you wanna have enough money to meet your living expenses, and then obviously have some invest and some for just some casual luxuries you wanna afford. And I'm not saying having a nice car is a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love nice cars as well. I like nice clothes as well. So there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to do it for the right reasons, not to prove other people something. But if you truly enjoy it and can afford it, then absolutely go for it. But once again, that's something we should be talking about with our kids, amongst each other, because a lot of young people, they're trying to keep up with the Joneses and portray a nice life on Instagram and TikTok, and they go into debt to get those luxuries in their life. And that's terrible, especially when you're young. You want to start investing to build up your net worth and benefit from compound growth over time. Instead, they bury themselves in debt, and that's going to be extremely hard to get out of for the remainder of your life. Another misperception about money, I often hear people talking about making six figures. That's such a nice saying, I make six figures. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? But also people need to understand what it actually means, I make six figures. That might be the income of the company they're having if they're freelancer, etc. Then they have a lot of costs associated. They're going to have corporate income tax, they're going to have individual income tax. So what they make in six figures is definitely not what they're taking home. The same if you make a six-figure salary, that's most likely going to be gross salary. So let's imagine you make $100,000 at that stage, depending where you live in the world, but let's say around 35 to 40%. Let's say for easy calculation, 40% goes to tax. You're left with 60,000 in a year. So that's 5,000 per month. Still sounds a lot, but imagine if you live somewhere in the US, in New York, for example, where an apartment can easily cost 2,500 to 3,000, you're left with 2,000 to spend. And the cost of living in the US is extremely high. So if you eat out, etc., you might spend another 1,500 easily. That leaves you with $500. So from earning six figures, you're actually at the end of the month down to maybe, if you're lucky, saving $500 or less. And that's the reality. But a lot of people who don't know that, they say, wow, that person is a rich person. And that's why financial literacy and education is so important, that our kids and ourselves get smarter and don't fall for scams, because a lot of those scams or promises of making $1,000 a day, I mean, they would be very easily disregarded if we had this understanding. If I tell you that you can lose 20 kilograms a day, you would probably immediately switch off, say, what the heck is this guy talking about? No way that's possible, because you know enough about the human, exercise, the body, etc., that such a promise is simply not possible. But when people promise, send me 1 Bitcoin and I'll send you 2 Bitcoin back, strangely enough, still people falling for this. And that's where the lack of financial education and financial literacy comes in. Now, at the same time, I get it. Life is for living. You need to also enjoy yourself. Otherwise, if you invest every single euro, dollar, pound you get, I mean, where's the fun, right? Then you can start living life when you reach 80. I mean, that doesn't sound particularly exciting. The truth is somewhere in between. From overspending to overinvesting, you need to find your own middle ground. But the more you speak about it, the more you listen to other successful people, how they deal with their money, you can find your own path, right? And that's why I want to give you a challenge. At the next party or barbecue gathering, try to speak to a new person and try to somehow get to the topic of money. Now, obviously you don't have to ask him, there's a second question after what's your name, how much do you make? That would be a little bit awkward, I suppose, but you can slowly work your way there. Start talking about the markets, how things are going, the crypto, stocks, etc. Maybe you open the topic, how you start investing, and then at the same time you can ask them, are they investing? Are they interested? What they do with their money? And you kind of start talking more about it. Of course, you kind of have to warm up the person, and then you will see some people, they completely shut down, and obviously you can't force them to talk about it, but others, you will see they have the same questions you might have, and they will open up, and you can have amazing conversations about money. Now, obviously, use common sense. You don't have to ask them for the exact numbers or their last pay slip, but you can even talk in percentages. What percentage of your money do you actually invest? Is it 5%, 10%, 20%? These things, without revealing your cards. There might be certain conflict if you're in the same company. Obviously, you shouldn't be talking about salary, etc. That's in your contract, not because you shouldn't, but because in your contract it says so. For whatever reason, that's the case. Even by talking about percentages, you can learn something new and kind of maybe advise each other, etc. So the more you talk about it, the more comfortable you get, and the smarter your decision making comes in the long term, hopefully. Guys, I hope you enjoyed my little rant. That's a topic that's really dear to my heart, and one of the reasons why I actually started this channel, because I think we have to be more educated, not just coming up with clickbait and unrealistic returns that people promise, but really why we need money, how money works, and what we should be doing ideally with our money. If you enjoyed the video, then please gently tap the like button, or you can also smash that like button. Either way, really appreciate you for watching. As always guys, stay healthy, get wealthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!